Welcome back. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the reasons I talk. I say, if you know me, you know I talk a lot. And again, I can talk about so many different subjects: politics, religion, philosophies, social issues, just so many different things. But that's just one of the things that I self-discovered because, I say if you knew me when I was growing up as a kid, I didn't talk a lot. I really didn't talk a lot. Until about 15 years ago, and that's the reason that I talk. Was that 15 years ago, this Monday, my twin brother was killed in action, and so the reason I talk is that I found that one of the most difficult things I've dealt with is a feeling of inability to talk about my pain, to talk about how it's affected me, because as the years went on, I saw more and more people around me, I would say, moving on, or at the very least, it appeared that way. It appeared that their mentality towards my pain, towards my brother's death, was it's time to move on. It's time, and again, I realized that pain, that impact on each other's lives, isn't going to be the same. Specifically, with my own, him being my twin, I realized that the people around me aren't going to have the same reaction. They aren't going to have that as deep of a wound as that left. But again, that was one of the reasons that I talk so much, is that I feel like I'm not trapped. Like I said, for myself with depression, specifically dealing with traumatic pain, that's one of the things that I felt aided my pain, that made it stronger, was just this sense of not being able to talk about, not being able to discuss how it affected me. Even just bringing him up, there were so many times where, again, with friends and family, I wanted to say something, but again, I did not feel like I could, and it wasn't necessarily because of the actions of loved ones, the actions of my family and friends. There may have been a handful of incidences that reinforced that, but again, the majority of the time, it wasn't anything that was being reinforced constantly, and I finally gave up. It was just a couple of incidences. But just for example, I really didn't open up a lot about my severe pain to my best friend. But maybe a couple of years ago, and again, he opened up, and just it hurt him a lot for him to think that I couldn't talk about it to him. And it wasn't just a matter of me judging him or anything that he did or didn't do. It was just the fact that in my mind, I didn't think anybody cared, and it wasn't that I didn't think he cared at all, but I didn't know where they were. I didn't know if they wanted to talk about it. I didn't want to drag them down to where I was, and so initially, a lot of the lack of discussion with my loved ones and so forth were just me trying to prevent them being any further down because of my brother's death than they were. I knew that they had their own pain and they mourned at times, but I didn't want to, I'd see them on occasion. I wouldn't see them frequently, so it's just like I didn't want to conjure up that pain and make them feel sad that they didn't need to. If they could smile and have their minds distracted, then I was happy for them. But as the years and years went on, I found that it just made it more and more hard for me to speak up. And so again, for myself, that's one of the reasons that I love talking, is that I feel like I'm being freed from my pain. I feel like my pain isn't silencing me. And I'm sure that there are plenty of other people out there suffering from traumatic pain who do feel that sense of being trapped. Like they can't talk about their pain, and the longer it goes on, the harder it is. And so again, that's one of the reasons I talk so much, is I don't even necessarily have to talk about my pain, but if I'm talking about issues, mentally it feeds my optimism. It feeds my ability to feel like there's hope, that people are willing to listen. That's one of the reasons I talk about, say, the hot subjects and controversial subjects. That a lot of people don't want to talk about politics or religion, and I love talking about it. And it's not because I love conflict. It's not because I love pushing people's buttons. I'd like to approach life compassionately, but I feel like if I'm actively talking about it, even if I don't 100% agree or agree at all with the person I'm talking with, I feel like I'm not trapped, because again, I feel like a lot of things that drive people's politics and religion is pain. Pain that they've gone through, pain that they've witnessed, or pain they haven't experienced, that influences their perspective and position on things. So again, if you don't feel like you can talk about it. I feel like that feeds the nature of not feeling like you can talk about your pain, not feeling like you can talk about your perspective and why you have that perspective. I feel like it validates the sense that you can't, that your pain isn't credible, or that people can't see it. And so again, that's why I love to talk. It makes me feel free from my pain. I feel like I'm stronger than it, that I can defeat it. Because if I can talk about this touchy subject, this controversial subject, and have a civil conversation, then I feel like there's hope that I can talk about my pain. And sometimes that does kind of lead to me talking about my pain and how it influences me explaining my position on certain social issues, where I can talk about, like I've talked several times about kneeling during the national anthem. In the past, I wouldn't have felt like I could say my position because I felt like I would have been judged and hated. But again, it's just this importance of me being able to speak my piece and say why I feel the way I feel. That's so relieving, because again, I've had decent amount of experiences over the years where it's just reinforcement why I don't talk. But the more and more experiences I have positively talking about my pain, talking about social issues, talking about politics or religion, the more free I feel from my pain. And again, the second reason I talk so much is that this is how I communicated with my twin when he was here. Was that my twin brother and I had a very deep connection where we could just talk and talk and talk. I mean, that was one of the things. Was even, I think it started I think in 8th grade, and then going into 9th grade and continued through 10th grade, where we weren't as close as we had been. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that was when we were pursuing girls and so forth. And so there's that sense of trying to figure out that dynamic and I'll say being fake, but putting on a show and such, to which my twin brother and I weren't really fond of each other putting on shows, because we could see right through each other. We knew exactly who each other was. We knew exactly how we would react. And so again, that was a point where we didn't hang out nearly as much as we had. But even then, we downloaded on each other at the end of the day. We would talk for hours and hours. And we talked for hours and hours about one subject. It wasn't, we'd talk about 15 minutes about this and this. We would talk. I remember one time my twin brother was telling me about a movie he had seen. And I want to say he took about an hour telling me about this movie. And that movie, in its entirety, I think was like an hour and a half long. And I can give descriptions and scenes in the movie. And I've never seen the movie. To this day, I've never seen the movie. But I can tell you scenes in it just based on his description, just because of how well we communicated and how in detail we communicated. So again, it was just an awesome connection and benefit I had of being a twin. And that's one of the reasons that I talk so much, is how I put it is, it was a muscle. It's like a muscle of nostalgia, where the more and more I talk, the more I feel like I can just talk and talk forever with somebody. I feel like I'm working that muscle out that I worked out with my twin. And so it gives me the sense that he's here. It gives me the sense of peace and comfort that he gave me. So again, I think it's important for us to self-reflect and to examine why we talk, why we don't, what would help us talk. But again, that was one thing I would encourage for people who are suffering from traumatic loss and from loss in general, is to just try to figure out what deep connection you had with that individual and how you can work that muscle out, how you can get your fix, so to speak, of making it feel like they're beside us, because that's something I've learned. I've said it a few times. Coming up this Monday is the 15th year anniversary of my twin brother's death, and Sunday is our 35th birthday. So again, it's just something that I've been struggling with, of trying to figure out how to properly celebrate our birthday and properly mourn his death. Our birthday being the day before his death. It's just, and again, it's for me, I'm self-reflecting. I'm trying to figure out how I can, what bothers me, what aspect could help me with these issues. Because again, coming up on 15 years, I would say, the first year after his death, my family and us and our friends and relatives out in the Seattle area, we got together and we almost, we said I had a second service for him. We had we reminisced. It was being surrounded by all those people that knew him and knew what I had gone through. It meant so much to me, and it felt so at home. It felt natural. It felt like I could let my guard down, and I could let tears in my eyes, and I knew everyone around me would support me and wouldn't judge me. And sadly, over the years, obviously, I'm not expecting everyone's life picks up. And again, I live 700 miles away from where I used to live, where the majority of my family and friends live. And so I'm just not able to have that type of connection, and get that kind of comfort around me. So that's one thing I'm working on now. It's just trying to figure out how I can make myself feel at home and feel like I'm surrounded by that kind of same support, but do so in the reality I'm in today. Do so with the close loved ones I have around me, and what that has to look like now. And again, I think it's something that's going to take some time figuring out, I don't want to say the exact, but the mesh, the new tradition, the new sense of again, like just the fact that that's one of the things that bothers me. And again, it's not of any intent, because I know that their words are meaning well, but that's one thing that has bothered me for years. And again, I really haven't told a lot of people, but it bothers me when people wish me a happy birthday. And that might sound peculiar, but the idea is that they're wishing me a happy birthday, and it just it highlights and it just emphasizes the fact that my twin's not here, because it's not my birthday, it's our birthday. And so when people wish me a happy birthday, it's an unintentional salt in the wound, where I'm just being reminded he's not here. And again, wishing both of us a happy birthday wouldn't change that fact, but it would feel more like it would connect me more with who I used to be, with the the twin before I was a twinless twin. Again, that's something that I've been missing for so many years, and it's something that's not going to go away for many years to come. But again, it's just about self-reflecting and realizing why we are the way we are. Like I said, I had my feelings. I talked a lot with my twin, and I talked a lot with my friends and my family. But outside that, with strangers, people that I would meet, I was extremely shy. And again, that was just something that again, when my twin was killed, because of the two of us, he was much more assertive. He was much more headstrong, and I was the analytical, brainy type, or what have you. And I was fine with that. It was kind of, we got our own validation. We got our own sense of being through each other. And I felt like we didn't feel a need to try to change, because we 100% accepted each other. And so after my twin was killed, the world was really scary for me, because I had lost my security blanket, so to speak. I lost the person that always validated me 100%. And again, by nature, I wasn't a super social person. And so it really, I'd say, alienated me for some time. But that was one of the things that it forced me into doing, was it forced me to swim on my own, so to speak. That's one thing I found, was that I really love talking to people. I really love socializing with people I know, but also just with complete strangers, because there's just so much out there. I've connected with so many different people so quickly, and again, found so many people that prioritized and cared about my pain, and I found so many people that had pain, that they had experienced pain similar to mine, or maybe it was completely different. And again, that opened my eyes to the truth of other pain that I didn't see. So again, that's something that I found extremely self-benefiting. It is just being able to talk and to have conversations about things, so that I can grow as a person and become stronger, and not feel so alone with my pain. But again, I hope everyone can get that courage and get that the comfort. Again, I feel like we need to just kind of look for that opportunity. I wouldn't encourage somebody to every time you meet somebody to just open with the pain in your life, because again, somebody might misinterpret that, or maybe they're not especially sensitive or empathetic, and so I don't want people to be discouraged. But I would encourage people to listen, because a lot of times, like, that's when I start to open up, as I might start talking about life or something, and then once someone starts talking about their pain, someone starts talking about their experiences, or how they're viewing what's going on in society, I kind of see that I see that opportunity to be a little more real with my pain. And again, see if they're receptive, if it's one of those things where they seem disinterested, or they start to make, I mean, say an unwanted critical comment, and that's kind of an okay, let's, cool, have a good day, and kind of, so I wouldn't encourage people to jump in the deep end at first, but I do think it's for myself, and I feel like it would benefit a lot of other people, is feeling the ability to talk about your pain and talk about how it's impacted you, because again, I feel like once you explain your pain, it may shine light on somebody, to somebody else, on somebody they know is suffering. They may realize, oh my gosh, this is what's really going on. Because again, it's just so many times where I've been shocked and then pleasantly surprised on the knowledge and wisdom I've found. And again, I may have been talking something as superficial as football. I love football, but so many times as I've discussed subjects and issues, I've learned so much interesting, true realities, true truths. There was I was watching a special, or I think it was a Football Life on the Barber twins, Tiki and Rondé Barber, and it was awesome because me being a twin, I remember they were talking about how when they were younger, they did have issues being social with other people because they were extremely close and extremely vocal and straightforward with each other, and they were talking about the reason why was because it was effortless, because the second they came into the world together, they were best friends, and they didn't have to put any work and put any effort into having that supreme connection and dialogue, and so that actually slowed down their ability to socialize and be comfortable with other people and being opening up. And it was just crazy because as they were discussing that, I realized that's what I'd been struggling with, because I had this amazing connection, this perfect relationship with my twin, and then he was killed, and I was left in the world alone, and I didn't know how to communicate. I'm still figuring out of how other people communicate and develop relationships and develop trust and develop bonds, because the strongest bond I've ever had was effortless. And so it's taken me a lot of work and a lot of self-reflecting, and then also viewing other people and how they process and how they trust, to get it right, so to speak. But again, I think it's important for us to be able to talk about why we have our positions, and again, figure out what works for us. Because, in some cases, talking a lot might not help people. It may aggravate the situation. I realize that's why a lot of people don't like talking about politics or religion, is because just even the subject, even if you're agreeing with them, it may emotionally upset them because it reminds them of the opposition, of the hate that they've experienced. So again, I do think it's important to figure out what works for you, because what works for you won't necessarily work for me, and vice versa. But again, I feel like that's how we get the solutions. That's how we get the answers to our pain, and the remedies is trial and error, is self-reflecting on and figuring out not just what bothers us and what helps us, but why. Like I said, it helps me because it makes me feel like my twin is here. It helps me because it's an experience that a bond I had with my twin, and also the fact that a big part of my pain with my twin's death was a feeling of inability to talk about it, and so I feel free when I talk. I feel free of my pain when I can talk about my pain, even if it's not about my twin. If it's just about life, I feel strong. And the part that really feeds my pain is the feeling that I can't talk about it, the discouraging conversations I have where I just start to discuss something and someone shuts me down. And again, it's just that, and that's one of the things that I've learned, is there's certain people in my life and certain people I've met in the public where, I kind of test the waters, and if somebody seems like they're going to be, bullheaded or strong-willed or not flexible and not willing to listen to different perspectives, then I'll just kind of just brush it off and calmly shift the conversation. But again, it's important to test the water and to get out there. But again, it's really important for you to be ready for that, for no one to push anybody into the deep end, but for you to make that decision. And again, I would encourage people to do it gradually, to again try to say open dialogue, practice certain actions to see if it works for you, and again, to not be discouraged, but again, self-reflect on why is it helping you, or why is it hurting you. But as always, good luck and good night.